Let's begin. But I need to warn you, and I need you to listen very closely. This is not going to be a comfortable experience. The words that follow are not designed to be gentle, and they are most certainly not what you want to hear. But if you're here, if something in your life feels stuck, painful, or perpetually unresolved, then what I'm about to share is precisely, and perhaps desperately, what you need to hear. There's a secret that has been quietly sabotaging your happiness, your relationships, and your sense of self-worth for your entire life. It's a shadow that follows you into every room, a weight you feel but cannot name. And today, we are not just going to name it, we are going to drag it into the light. If you click away now, you risk spending the rest of your life fighting a war you don't even know you're in, trapped by an enemy you can't see. But if you stay, if you have the courage to face this profound discomfort, you might just find the key to a freedom you have long stopped believing was possible. The choice is yours, but the clock is ticking. From the moment you were a small child, you were subtly trained to look for answers outside of yourself. Society, family, and your own developing mind taught you to search for a reason, a source, a person to blame for your pain. It's a simple, almost primal, human instinct to put a name and a face to our suffering. And for so many of us, for reasons we are about to explore, that name is often our mother's. You've pointed the finger, you've replayed the memories, you've analyzed the wounds, and you've concluded that she is the architect of your inner turmoil. But here is the earth-shattering truth that almost no one has the courage to tell you. It is not your mother who still holds you captive. It's not her actions from decades ago that are tightening the chains today. It is what your own mind, in a desperate act of survival, did with her. This is not a criticism of you. It is not an attack, nor is it a defense of her. It is simply a truth so profoundly unsettling that most people will spend their entire lives avoiding it. The figure you call mother does not just exist in your memory. She lives and breathes within your unconscious mind long after she has physically left the room or even this world. She has become an internal program, a ghost in the machine of your psyche. You have tried to move on, haven't you? You've read the books, you've sought therapy, you've meditated, you've tried to find peace. But peace can never be won when you are still fighting a war against a phantom, a war you don't even consciously recognize. The war is not against a person of flesh and bone. It is a war against an image, a symbol, a powerful and deeply embedded shadow that took up residence inside of you before you even had the words to name it. And the most terrifying part of all, this shadow doesn't leave on its own. It must be faced. Wise masters of the mind, like Shi Heng Yi, have long understood this phenomenon. In psychology, it was given a name, the mother complex. And please, do not dismiss this as just another sterile psychological label. This is not some abstract theory for academics to debate. The mother complex is a living, breathing, emotional prison with invisible bars, and you have been living inside it. It's that relentless inner voice that judges you without ever speaking a word. It's that cavernous emptiness in your chest that no achievement, no relationship, and no amount of validation can ever seem to fill. It's that desperate, gnawing need for approval that you have been dragging behind you like a ball and chain since you were a child. And the cruelest twist in this psychological drama is that this burden, this complex, isn't even truly yours. It is an inheritance, an emotional heirloom passed down through generations. It is an echo of another's pain, a scar on the very skin of your soul. So, you find yourself asking the crucial question, how on earth do you heal something so deep, so foundational, so invisible? This is where the real, arduous work begins. Because as long as you continue to see your mother as an all-powerful figure, either as a goddess to be idolized or a demon to be blamed, you are not seeing your mother at all. You are seeing a myth. You are interacting with a projection, a distorted image sculpted by years and years of your own unmet needs, your unnamed wounds, and the heavy, resentful silences that filled the spaces where love should have been. You have built a statue in your mind, and you are either worshipping at its feet or trying to tear it down. But in both cases, you are giving it all the power. And do you know what's worse? That myth, that internal statue, rules your life far more than you would ever care to admit. Every single decision you make while subconsciously seeking approval from a phantom is a decision guided by that myth. Every relationship that crumbles because you secretly expect your partner to be the perfect parent who will finally save you is a casualty of that myth. Every time you find yourself physically unable to set a boundary, to say no, to protect your own energy, you are kneeling before that myth. All of it, your anxieties, your patterns, your deepest fears, has roots that stretch far deeper than you think. Those roots were planted in your childhood, nourished by a gaze that was missing, a hug that never came, a word of validation that was never spoken. And now, here you are, a fully grown adult, navigating a complex world, but a part of you, deep inside, is still that lost child, standing in a quiet room, waiting for mom to come in and promise that everything is going to be okay. But here is the most brutal and liberating part of this entire revelation. That moment is not going to happen anymore. She is not coming to fix it, because true healing isn't about forcing her to change, to apologize, to finally understand. True healing begins the moment you stop waiting for her to do so, and accepting that, truly accepting it, is devastating. It feels like a death. For years, you've been told that forgiveness is the key. You've been advised that understanding her story, her struggles, her own pain, is the path forward. You've been encouraged to put yourself in her shoes. And yes, all of that can be a part of the journey, but none of it will work if you skip the most fundamental, non-negotiable first step. You must look inward and recognize that the wound, today, is no longer anyone else's responsibility. It's yours. It is entirely, completely, and terrifyingly yours. And nobody is coming to heal it for you. Now, if you're still with me, it means you're ready to go even deeper. Because beneath the layers of blame and projection, there is something else. A darker, more hidden layer, but one that is incredibly powerful. We need to talk about the concept of invisible loyalty. Yes, you heard that right. An unconscious, unspoken loyalty to your mother's limitations that you never chose, but which directs your life as if you were a puppet on a string. It's the reason why, no matter how much progress you make, how many books you read, or how many hours of therapy you undergo, you always seem to find yourself back at the same frustrating starting point. Here is the secret trap, the perverse game your unconscious mind is playing. A part of you believes that if you truly surpass your mother, if you become happier, freer, or more successful than she was, you are fundamentally betraying her. Do not try to rationalize this. This is not a logical thought. It's an emotional certainty imprinted deep within your nervous system. You grew up learning through osmosis that your identity was inextricably tied to hers. You absorbed the unspoken rule that her struggles, her sorrows, and her unfulfilled dreams were now a part of your own legacy. Without ever realizing it, you made a silent pact, an invisible promise that echoes in every self-sabotaging decision you make. That promise says, I will not be better than you, Mom. I will not be fully free if you were not. I will not allow myself complete happiness if you never found yours. Do you see the prison now? And the most terrifying part is that this prison is often disguised as love. We are not talking about conscious hate or resentment. We are talking about a profound unconscious fidelity that chains you to her pain, her frustration, her limits. This is why you find yourself repeating relationship patterns you swore you would avoid. This is why every time you are on the verge of a major breakthrough or a great achievement, a mysterious force of self-sabotage kicks in. A part of you whispers, if I am truly happy and she wasn't, then I am being disloyal. I am abandoning her. This is the scene that plays out in the souls of thousands. The adult child who doesn't allow themselves to live fully so as not to metaphorically hurt the feelings of a mother who may no longer even be here or who was never truly present in the first place. It's as if, deep down, you are trying to communicate, look, Mom, I am suffering too. You are not alone in your sadness. And that misguided, noble sacrifice is what is slowly killing you. The real betrayal isn't leaving her story behind. The real betrayal is choosing to repeat it. If you truly want to free yourself, if you truly want to honor the life she gave you, there is something you must understand on a cellular level. Honoring the mother is surpassing the mother. This is not an act of ego. It is not a rejection. It is the very definition of evolution. She gave you the gift of life, and your sacred duty is to multiply that gift, not to diminish it to match her circumstances. Your purpose is to take the inherited pain and transmute it into something new, into awareness, into wisdom, into transformation, into a life lived authentically and fully. But to do that, you must consciously and deliberately break the secret vow, the one you made before you could even speak, the one that says, "I will not be freer than you." You must break that promise, not with anger, but with profound, compassionate love. You must say to her in the quiet of your own heart, whether she is alive or not, whether she could ever understand or not, "Mom, thank you. Thank you for everything you were able to give me. But now I choose to follow a different path. My path is not one of resentment, it is one of liberation. I am choosing my own freedom, and in doing so, I am also freeing you from the burden of my loyalty to your pain. Because as long as you live trapped in that hidden fidelity, your life will be nothing more than a repetition. You will unconsciously recreate her fears, her anxieties, her way of loving with an edge of desperation, her inability to set boundaries, her deep-seated need to be accepted, her guilt, her sacrifice, her pain. You will do it all without ever knowing why. Have you taken a moment to truly realize how many decisions in your life have been guided by this invisible allegiance? Perhaps this is why you cannot tolerate the slightest hint of rejection. Perhaps this is why you feel a strange sense of guilt whenever things are going too well for you. Perhaps this is why you consistently choose partners who make you feel small, not because you are weak, but because you are being loyal to a familiar feeling of being less than. That loyalty, however, comes at the highest possible price, your own life. When you dare to question it, when you look this invisible loyalty straight in the face, something inside you will shift. A void might appear, a strange and unfamiliar silence, because for the first time in your life, you are separating your identity from hers. For the first time, you are declaring, "I am not you, and you are not me." For the child you once were, this feels like the ultimate abandonment. But for the adult you are becoming, this is birth. This is where it all truly begins. This isn't about cutting off a relationship. It's about fundamentally redefining it within your own psyche. Because even if your mother was the most loving, the most absent, the most overprotective, or the most critical person on earth, what ultimately matters is not who she was. What matters is the place you have given her inside your mind. And that place, if you don't consciously organize it, becomes either a sacred altar you worship or a dark prison you are enslaved by. Both are a distortion. The only way to heal is to courageously dismantle the fantasy. And just when you believe you have finally let go, when you think you've broken that internal loyalty, something else emerges. Something more subtle, more treacherous, and harder to detect. Emotional self-abandonment. This is the final, brutal knot in this story, and it is directly linked to that mother archetype still living in your shadow. Think about it. What does a child do when they do not receive the consistent, unconditional emotional care they need to thrive? They adapt. They learn to survive. They shut down their feelings. They learn to ignore their own needs. They pretend it doesn't hurt. They become an expert at repression. That brilliant survival skill, which saved you as a child, has now become your default way of life as an adult. Have you ever stopped to truly notice how you treat yourself? Listen to the way you talk to yourself in the privacy of your own mind. Observe how you demand a level of perfection from yourself that you would never, ever demand from someone you love. This is not a coincidence. It is the direct continuation of the original pattern. You are now reproducing the very abandonment you once lived, but now you are both the perpetrator and the victim. No one is actively hurting you anymore. You are the one who keeps hurting yourself, all in the name of old, outdated programming. Every time you deny yourself rest when you are exhausted, you are abandoning yourself. Every time you minimize your own pain, telling yourself to get over it, you are abandoning yourself. Every time you betray your own values to avoid making someone else uncomfortable, you are abandoning yourself. Every single time you accept the unacceptable out of a deep-seated fear of not being loved, you are replaying the same tragic script. if I ignore my own needs, if I make myself smaller, then maybe they will love me. Do you understand what this means? It means you learned to survive by ceasing to exist emotionally. And that is a slow, silent, invisible massacre of the soul. You have become your own authoritarian parent, the one who doesn't let you cry, the one who demands you be strong at all costs, the one who pushes you to perform, to give, to hold everyone else together, except yourself. And the most twisted part of this cycle is that the more you abandon yourself, the more desperately you look for someone else to come and rescue you. But that rescue will never come, because no one can give you the love you are not willing to give yourself. So here is the true revolution. It is not loud or flashy. It begins with a quiet, radical decision to start taking care of yourself the way you always needed someone to take care of you. You must become your own internal mother. You must re-educate yourself from scratch. Learn to give yourself the unconditional affection you were denied. Give yourself permission to feel your emotions without judgment. Learn to speak to yourself with tenderness when you fall, and to offer yourself comfort when what you need is compassion, not perfection. At first, this will feel foreign, even ridiculous. For years, you've been accustomed to the internal whip of criticism and the emotional coldness of self-demand. But you must understand that none of that is truly you. It is borrowed software, a faulty operating system you inherited, not because it was effective, but because it was the only one you ever knew. If you want to break that cycle, start by asking yourself this simple question: how would I treat a small child who just went through what I just went through? What would you say if you saw that child exhausted, worn out, and on the verge of breaking? Would you push them harder and call them weak? Or would you hold them, wrap them in a blanket, and tell them it's okay to rest without asking for anything in return? Now, realize with every fiber of your being, that child is you, yes, even today. Even if you are 30, 40, or 50 years old, that child is still there, and they are still waiting. But no one is coming in the way you imagine. It's not about finding a perfect savior. It's about becoming the compassionate refuge you always needed. This is not cheap mysticism. It is a profound law of the mind. The master Shi Heng Yi teaches this very principle. What is not made conscious manifests in your life as destiny. If you do not make your pattern of self-abandonment conscious, you will repeat it in every relationship, every job, and every major decision. You will live from a place of scarcity, emotional hunger, and a desperate need to be saved. And the great paradox is this: you only stop needing to be saved when you finally become your own sanctuary. When you get this far on the journey, something inside you has already fundamentally changed. You don't need external confirmation. You can feel it. It's a subtle vibration of truth that appears when you finally looked at the one thing you've spent your whole life avoiding. It's that strange, paradoxical mix of emptiness and power, of grief and rebirth. Because the end of this journey isn't a round of internal applause or a magical, enlightened bliss. It's silence, a new kind of silence, a clean silence, because you have finally dared to break the deafening noise of your inherited patterns. Now you understand. You understand why you never felt truly at peace with yourself, why it was so hard to know who you really were. You were living a life inhabited by voices that were not your own, burdened by emotional debts that were not yours to pay, reacting from a pain that was passed down through generations. But no more. What remains now is your space, your identity, your authentic voice. And here's the most interesting part. You won't live a life without wounds, but for the first time, you will live with them consciously. And that changes everything. The wounds themselves were never the problem. The problem was living in a state of constant escape, pretending they don't exist, believing that if you don't name them, they will simply disappear. But they don't disappear. They transform, but only when you look at them, when you speak to them, when you walk through them. At that final crossing, something new is born, your true emotional maturity. Not the brittle maturity based on controlling everything, but the resilient maturity that accepts that inside you coexist broken parts and wise parts, parts that still cry and parts that have learned how to hold them. You have crossed the threshold. You are no longer the symbolic child of your past. You have become the symbolic parent of your present. You no longer live from what was missing. You live from what you choose to create. And that is a power very few people ever dare to claim. So, now that you know this, what will you do with it? Because this is where the video ends, but where your real work begins. The invisible part, the part no one else will see, but that you will feel every single day, in every choice, in every new way you treat yourself. Every time you consciously choose awareness over reaction, you are free. And though no one will applaud you for it, that is a form of freedom that can never be taken away. I will leave you with one final idea, a phrase to hold on to repeat, to tattoo on your soul. When self-love is born from healed pain, it stops being a trend and becomes a silent revolution. And if you have made it this far, I want to know who you are. Make it clear in the comments. I want to see the ones who don't just watch, but who dare to feel every single word. Write it down below. I am the end of the pattern. Because if you made it to the end, you are no longer the same. You have looked at what others refuse to see. And if this shook you, if it touched a part of you that has been asleep for a long time, subscribe. Not for me, but for you. Because here, we don't come to entertain our egos. We come to awaken our consciousness. The journey is just beginning. Turn on that notification bell, because what's coming next will hurt, but it will also set you free. Now go and do something that scares you a little. Talk to yourself like you never have before. Look at yourself in the mirror without judgment for 10 whole seconds, because when you change the way you treat yourself, the world has no choice but to change the way it responds to you. You no longer need a savior. You finally know the savior was you all along.